understand in this communication. Okay, fine. We know all of what you say. Everybody has heard it. We know you're preaching to the choir. But I don't understand if you want their vote and all you're going to do is chastise them for feeling how they feel, that says to them that you're trying to make them feel how you feel. And that's not what they want to do. So I don't know how we deal with that crux of the problem, but some negotiation has to happen. We can't have a conversation if, in fact, nobody's willing to negotiate.
Bingo. Can I say one thing? I agree with what you just said, First Lady. I had been out of the room, but I was here in time to hear whoever said that their friends couldn't get down with the trans thing. Here's how I would, because if you have friends that are at least willing to talk to you about that, what I would then ask is, so did they hear the Democrats? I would say, so can you show me where the Democrats were so down with the trans? Or did the Republicans tell you that the Dems are so down with the trans? And did they stay on that message? Because at the end of the day, which is something that I found out late in the game, was the transgender thing was signed under Donald Trump. He signed off on that. I wonder how many people who voted against the Dems because of what the Republicans were saying even knew that. I pretty much pay attention a lot, and it was way late in the game when I heard that or realized that he's the one that signed it. So I think with our messaging, those are the type of things we need to be looking at. When they can drill down to a specific issue that caused them to flip their vote, why don't we do more talking to them about whether or not that's even true? Because we know they're lying on the other side. That's the thing. We know that they're projecting. Yeah. We know these things, but we don't take the time to help them see it in that way, rather than judging them, rather than trying to make them feel bad. Let's talk about it. That's what I would do with my friends. Let's talk about it. Let's see who's really talking about the transgender thing like that. Because Democrats care about all people, right? They want they want things to be fair for all people. I never saw anybody getting down with the trans.
I just have to say one thing too. You have to understand.
I don't want to see anybody.
One second.
I don't want to see anybody hurt.
I'm sorry.
But let's talk about it. That's all I'm saying. Maybe we got to get better at that part of the messaging, especially when we know that that's not what it is. But if that's what's before them all the time, yeah, people are going to think that. We have to kind of help. We have to train ourselves to be better advocates and change our mindsets. We got to get better at changing how we respond to what we know our lives.
So, Mr. Finley, are you there?
I'm here.
So, what do you heard me speak? You heard Deborah speak. What say you?
So, this conversation highlights my frustration with the blue team, because again, you're absolutely correct. When a voter says that I don't like X, Y, and Z, and you're being chastised for that, because I brought up the Obama when I don't even vote federally, but when he made the comment about men, basically chastise men about how to vote, I felt the type of way, because I'm like, that's not how you approach voters. And I recognize that there are a lot of low information voters out here, right? I recognize that, but the reality is you still have to formulate a message to get them to buy your product. Like I believe in electric cars, right? But if I scolded you and said you dumb and stupid for putting gas in your car because it's bad for the environment, you dummy, that is more expensive, you dummy.
Neither First Lady nor I said that. Her question to you right now was, what do you think about that going forward, sir?
I'm speaking to the global conversation.
What going forward, sir?
I'm not, Deborah, I'm not addressing you specifically.
I'm not attacking
global.
I'm saying, that's all.
I'm saying
not an attack.
Right, but I'm speaking to the global issue with the blue team. They have a messaging problem, and that doesn't work. They do have to simplify the message, and I believe that they need to take their eggs out of every basket, put your eggs in a few bigger baskets, and then quietly do your entire agenda. And the trans issue was something I felt they put too many eggs in their baskets. Because again, I vote locally.
Yeah, you don't listen. That's no problem.
That harmed them locally. It was one thing that harmed them locally.
You accept the framing of MAGA. That's what
I don't accept the framing of MAGA, Scotty. I don't even know what you're talking about.
We have to be careful.
I'm talking about voters.
I pretty much agree with you. I said, what if we do? And then I said, I agree with you. You're still talking about that part. I think we all agreed that we've already agreed the messaging was not good. I was making a suggestion for going forward. And First Lady asked, what did you think about that? You're still talking about the bad messaging before. I gave a suggestion going forward. You're still talking about what already happened. I agree with you.
Can I just say one thing?
No, you cannot. 1 second. They're having a back and forth.
Restate your solution, because your solution didn't sound like a one from the party per se. It sounded like a one for like person to person.
So it starts from person to person. I was talking about the situation with your friends. I specifically said that. Your friends you had a conversation with your friends, is what you said, and they told you why they flipped their vote, because they didn't get down with the trans issue. I was addressing that issue in particular, your situation, because I don't know who was talking, but I did say whoever that was. And then I gave a suggestion how that can go better in the future. It is if your friend, because a lot of times friends don't even talk about politics, especially if they don't agree. But if you're able to have a conversation with a friend and they tell you why they flipped from Democrat to the reason why is over the trans issue, what I'm saying is have a conversation with them, talk to them, say, hey, so let's talk about it. Let's get a little deeper into that. At what times? Who was talking about it? What do you mean specifically that they're getting down with the trans issue? What issue are that you're concerned about? Because at the end of the day, that's not true. But what happened was the Republicans made that be a Democratic issue. They talked about it, but some people not even aware. I was one of them, and I consider myself informational. It was a while before I even realized that Donald Trump signed the trans issue operations or whatever, surgeries in prison. That was done on his watch. And so that could be an issue or a topic of discussion for someone who flipped because of the transgender issue. Were they even aware that that was signed under him? Wasn't signed under the Democrats. So I am only suggesting that we not be critical, that we inform, that we get better at training ourselves to inform those who believe these things that are not true. And have a real conversation back and forth rather than judge them. They could still maybe they may never believe it, or it might not change their minds, but we don't know that. But to allow them to say it and there's no response, particularly, and it doesn't have to be the trans issue. It could be a friend who had another issue that made them flip. If they're saying something that you know not to be true, why not talk about it? Not judge them, have an open conversation, show them the facts. In the trans situation, knowing that Donald Trump signed it could have been something that they weren't aware of.
Okay.
Right? But we don't know because we don't communicate. We got to get better at telling the real issue and not what the GOP tells us the issue is, because that's what they do.
And that's really good, too, that you have that information, because it shifts us out of having to be defensive when you actually have the real fact about that. That's really a cool point. You know, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about something that happened before the election. I was out having coffee with a relatively new friend, somebody who does not consider herself political. She told me that her fiance was Republican. She wasn't sure what she was going to do as far as voting. And we started to talk, and I was like really trying to get her on Team Blue. And I did something which I've always known to do, which is to find the personal, find the place where something really hits somebody in the heart. So we started talking about abortion, about women's rights, about women's bodily autonomy. And she's a very cool woman in her mid-50s who has a career and mom of 3 boys and, you know, really empowered woman. But we started to have that conversation. And I'm getting into, you know, abortion can be really, really touchy. And as we talked, her eyes started to well up. And suddenly she just broke down and she told me this story about being like 15 years old and some girl at school telling her that she was pregnant, and the girl coming to her. And this woman was from like a really super Christian family, and she didn't know what to do and she didn't know how to help her, and she was terrified. And she finally just, her heart knew that she needed to help the girl. And she went to her mom and she got her mom to help get the girl the abortion. And it was like, like the dam broke. And it became very personal for her, the whole issue. And it's like, that's where you have to meet people. It's more than just talk. It's more than what's in your head. You have to find the thing that really affects somebody and gives them the understanding that this is about them. You know, I mean, people going back again to the manosphere and to women and emotions, you know, when people tell me stop taking it personally, I go, I don't, there's no other way I want to take it other than personally. If you can make it personal with people, that's the opening in my experience.
So, again, I don't know what law you're referring to that sometime, but that's not the issue, right? The issue is this perception, right? The Dems put off a perception that, you know, I often say the Republicans are in denial about climate science. The Dems seemingly are in denial about biology. And that is a perception, right? And